welcome to the launch of season 4 of Accountants on Purpose. Yesterday, we went out with my recap of season 3, which was amazing because what I've been doing is asking everyone, all my guests, what their purpose is. And we did a summary of people's purposes, and it was so heartening to listen to them all in one go. So what I thought might be really useful for season 4 launch is to help people actually think about finding their purpose and potentially building their career or a business around what their purpose is. So I want to introduce you to Sarah Skeats, who's from Business of Brand, and she's an expert in purpose. And she's going to have a conversation with me for our launch because meeting in person for a launch wasn't as easy this year, got to say. We did have a beautiful launch for season 3 at AICD in March, very early March, right before lockdown happened. We're here in Adelaide. There isn't the same lockdown as there is in other parts of the world or even other parts of Australia, but it's still tricky to hold events. So here we are.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Thanks, Sarah. This is my favourite topic to talk about,
so
I'm very excited to be here today.
Well, I'm so happy that you agreed to come along.
Of course.
And socially distance from me on the other side of the table.
Yeah.
So where do we start when we're thinking about finding our purpose?
Well, purpose really is at the heart of everything. So we work with thousands of businesses globally to connect them together, to be able to connect around what their purpose is. So I've had this conversation with many, many businesses. Some businesses come to us and they don't yet really understand their purpose. Others come, they're totally purpose driven and they're on it. And it's just about how do we move forward and how do we build a business around that purpose. So purpose is a really important place for you to start with your business. It sits over the top of everything that you do, your whole business model. Purpose is at the very top of it. And my experience working in large corporates, running brand for big banks, down to working with startup businesses and small businesses, is it's actually the same philosophy around purpose. And if you can align your purpose, then the next step is everything should fall down from that. And that's through your products, that's through your channels, and that's through the way you go to market as well.
So what's the first step? I'm going to take this off so it doesn't jangle. If somebody wants to start thinking about purpose, do they think about it for themselves or do they think about it for their business? So at YouLegal, what we do is we protect purpose. So we want to work with purpose-driven businesses or businesses that have a purpose that's higher than profit and protect them by putting the right governance processes into place so that they don't fall over by doing something silly or not having something in writing or not thinking about how something's authorized, but having all of that in place as a framework to protect them. So I came up with that through working with you. But my personal purpose sort of fits in with that, I feel like.
Absolutely. That's what we find mainly is when we're working with the business owner, whether they are consciously connected to their personal purpose or not, we find that when you start a business, it's going to be related, but it's not always exactly the same. I think it's a really interesting process to go through to work out the purpose of the business and then the purpose of the people. So there's the business owner. So you're very clear about your business purpose and your personal purpose and how they're closely aligned, of course, because you've started the business. But you could step aside from the business and do some other things to be really achieving your personal purpose. But the conversation gets really interesting when there's other people in the business and seeing everyone in the business being connected to the purpose. So when you're very clear about the purpose of the business and you can articulate that to everyone in the business, then you'll find some people are naturally very connected, which is why they're working in the business. And others will be like, and it's more like a job to them. So you want to be attracting those people who are driven by your purpose.
So what are some examples, or other examples other than mine, of purposes that businesses might have?
Oh, gosh, amazing question. So our purpose is
Yes.
to shift the world into a new era.
Yes.
And we're a global business. So we're, our founders are in the UK, we're based in North America and in Australia and Korea.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we want to shift the world into a new era by working with as many different businesses and helping them be purpose-driven in as many different industries, so we can actually change the way industries work. You know, we think so many industries are broken,
Mm-hmm.
so many industries are stuck in the 20th century, and it's about moving into the 21st century.
Yes.
And we are actually moving into, as a trend of, have just flipped into the next 300 years is now we're in the purpose era. So
It's a good time to be talking about
perfect time. Every 300 years, we flip from a commercial era to a purpose era. So the last 300 years has all been around the commercial era.
Mm-hmm.
300 years before that was a purpose-driven era.
Okay.
So about probably in the last 10 years, we've flipped over into this era of purpose. And we can see it happening. There's so many businesses that are wanting to make an impact.
Mm.
So our purpose is to shift the world into a new era. Just thinking, beautiful Italian restaurant that we worked with in Sydney called Roma. He came into Bob School, which was a face-to-face school, which is now online.
Back in the day.
Back in the day when we remember those days. And his purpose, when he came into the school, he realized it was giving nature back the upper hand. So it was all about letting nature shine. So it was about the sauce. So it's an Italian restaurant. They, you know, sauce on pizzas, sauce on pasta, creating this beautiful organic sauce. But it was actually the source of the sauce. So the farmers and so he worked out that his purpose was giving nature back the upper hand. And he's now gone on to produce a beautiful organic passata range. He's gone on to create his own wine and organic wine that now gets sold through his restaurant. He's about to franchise, and now there's a channel for these new products that he's built. So purpose can really drive products and channels through your business.
And kind of light a fire under it.
Yes.
It sounds like for
absolutely.
Roma.
Naturally, things just start to fall out of it and you start to see the opportunities that purpose is bringing up. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm thinking about some other purposes. We've got an accounting practice. Really interesting story.
We're accountants on purpose.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. They're all about supporting family businesses. So they wanted to create happiness for family businesses, understanding the stress that families can be in when, you know, husband and wife working together in a business. And I actually went up to their offices once they'd done their initial course to help the leadership team work out, did they buy into that purpose, and what would their kind of way into the purpose? So what is their personal purposes? And it was a fascinating conversation. So we're sitting around a boardroom table pretty much like this, and next to me was one of the female leaders of the team. And, you know, she was like, no, I'm not really sure what my personal purpose is. And so we spent some time really digging in. And what we found, and what I've always found working with people, is there's always breadcrumbs through your life that connect things, even if you're consciously aware of it or not. And she went back through the breadcrumbs and she was like, wow, I'm all about supporting women, and I'm all about educating women to be literate in finance and giving women of all different circumstances a chance. And she went back through her life and she hadn't really connected into that before. But she's like, wow, I was so inspired by my grandmother, and she was all about education, and it was a very strong female influence in her life. And she connected in, and she was like, oh, this is amazing. And then the ideas just started flowing, and she's like, I could run like the female part of the business, and I can do a whole education program, and I can be doing keynote speaking, and I can, you know, I can be coaching and mentoring. And that was it. It just lit it, and off she went. And on the other side of the table, there was a gentleman, and he really connected into the culture, his culture. He was from a Greek background, and he really connected into supporting businesses in the culture and and he connected into that opportunity. And so then he was like, wow, so I'm going to go into the community and help with, giving back to the community, because that's the community that had given to him. So again, he's gone and now supported a lot of different businesses in that community.
I think it's really useful when professionals can connect in with a particular group that they can really make a difference within. So at ULegal, we help lots of doctors. I come from a medical family, and so protecting doctors works with protecting purpose, because we're protecting people who take care of us. And, if they're taking care of people and they can do that in a safer way from a legal point of view, then that's better for everyone. So that means a lot to me, coming from a family of surgeons and dentists and physiotherapists and nurses. And it being known for that now is just so much easier. Like, people already know that I have a passion for it and an expertise in it. So, that they find me without me having to go out and find them, which maybe those two people were just helping everyone before. But then once they find that purpose and vision, then they can channel their energy and start helping people that they're more driven to help anyway. So it kind of perpetuates itself, doesn't it?
It does. And at such a fast rate. It really is astounding once you really connect in. And it changes the business model. So we talk about two different ways of creating a business model. One is a push business model and one is a pull business model. So the push business model is where you're taking a sales approach and you literally are going and pushing your message out into market.
So what's an example of a business that does that? I know, I've just thought of one. I get emails all the time from people who want to give me a new website.
Yes.
Strangers that find my website and think, oh, this person needs a new website, which I just got. Stop emailing me.
It's a perfect example. And they would be saying, you need a new website and I'll give you a deal and here's 25% off. And
if you agree to do it.
Yeah. And if you do it and quick, you're running out, time's running out. It's this push messaging.
They're a stranger.
Exactly. You have no relationship with them.
I don't know if they're good at what they do.
Exactly.
I don't know if they work with lawyers.
That's right. And you don't know if you want to work with them.
Exactly.
You don't know if you connect with them and that's who you want to give your energy to.
That was a good example.
It was a brilliant
example. I've got to have a rant. I get them every day.
So that's a really great example. So when you're pushing your message out to people who don't know you, you're talking about your products, they're talking about the benefits of the products, you're probably talking about price. It's a conversation that, especially this new era that we're in, people are just not open to that kind of, it's like icky, and no one wants to be have a message pushed on them, and probably no one wants to be pushing either. So it's about creating the pull business model where you're pulling the customers towards you. And you just said it. You said it's where people are drawn to you because they know what you stand for. They know your expertise. They know what you're good at. They know that you this is your thing, and they want to work with you, and they're knocking on your door to come and work with you. I mean, that is a much better business model.
Totally.
That's the business model we all want. So building a brand-led, purpose-led strategy is what's going to pull the audience in. So Apple, brilliant example of a pull-led model, even though they're a product business. Every time they launch a product, there's people queuing up around the corner. It's a great example. And then for a service business, where you see pull models all the time. So at Bob, obviously we've built a pull model, and it's getting emails into your inbox. Hi, Sarah. How do you work? Could you do a consultation? Could we meet? I've heard about you. And often it is pulling is through hearing the proof points from other people. So other people's recommendations, seeing the work you've done, seeing podcasts, seeing you speak. They'll have had some kind of
connection
experience of you to then say, yeah, you're the kind of person I'd like to work with. Yes.
And now what I'm trying to do is find other businesses that are also purpose-led, that have a similar client base.
Yes.
And doing collaborations together, partnerships.
I love that.
And it's expanding for everyone.
Yeah. That's another trend that I see a lot of, actually, is back in the kind of 20th century, it was all about competition. Like, oh, we do the same thing, so I don't want you to be anywhere near me.
Or know who knows me.
Yeah.
Because then you might muscle in on them or something.
Steal my people.
Yeah.
And there's not enough, it's not enough to go around. And that kind of like that fear-based, rather than flipping to this new era where it's all about collaboration. And if you can work with other businesses who are in your industry and collaborate together, there's more for everyone, and there's better ways of doing things, and it's it's a much more giving, loving kind of way to do business. And who wouldn't want that?
Yeah. And if they're a good match, like I recently did a webinar with a lawyer named Lucy Percy, who's an estate planning lawyer, called With the End in Mind, and she is lovely, and I would so happily send anyone who had worked with me through to her to have that done. And so even Elise, one of my team, was saying, that was such a perfect matchup because of the way that she presented and the service that she offers.
Amazing.
So yeah, just looking for those connections and making it work.
Yes. And I feel like that we'll be seeing much more of that going
And it's
forward.
very unusual for lawyers to work together like that too.
Yes, such a good example. And you've written a few books, haven't you?
I have.
Because that's a really beautiful way of communicating your purpose and your business's purpose. Did you find going through that experience helped you with purpose?
Yes, definitely. And in fact, I've been reviewing my medical book, Growing a Medical Practice, with the idea of maybe doing an audio version of it. And in reviewing it, I was like, did I cover this? Did I cover this? And it's like, it's all here, like why I do this. And then I used to be a litigator. So bankruptcy, insolvency, I would, ask for the order on behalf of banks to sell people's properties and that sort of thing. And so I am really clear on what I don't want to do.
Yeah.
And it's that. Like, I want to protect people from that. And I was like, did I really cover this enough in this book? And it's all there. It's like, I want to stop you from getting to there because you have a dispute.
Yes.
Like, stop the disputes, the front end rather than the back end.
Love it. And I think that you said you're looking for people to kind of connect with who are quite similar to you. A book is a really great tool.
Yes, people feel like they already know me.
Yes.
When they have a conversation with me, and they want something in particular done. I'm like, okay, well, this is the cost. And they're like, oh, it doesn't matter. Let's get started.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Another point about purpose I've been thinking about is if people are clear about their purpose, one thing that I really highly recommend people do is be able to articulate it in a couple of words, if possible, or a statement. And then before you even take it out to market and start campaigning your purpose, get really clear and make sure that everyone in your business understands the purpose and can align to the purpose and stand behind it, and find their own examples of what that means. What does the purpose actually mean? So every conversation that they're having, they're able to authentically back up the brand and back up the purpose. Did you find that when you launched your purpose into the business?
Yes. And in fact, I found that there were team members that I had that didn't know what we were doing in relation to our giving and programs. Like, we do a few giving things, and they were like, well, we always say we give back, but we don't. Actually, we do. We give for every referral we get, every birthday in our community, every book we sell, every file we open, we give through B1G1, which is buy one, give one. And so this year we're giving, and then as a team, we also work, but it's the operations team that do all this. The service delivery team don't know about it. It just happens in the background. So we, as an operations team, decide what we're giving to every year as well. So this year we decided in January to do donations for each of those items to the fires and to communities affected by the fires. And last year we gave identity documents to children in Vietnam. Wow. And the year before that, it was something else. But the team decides so that they're driven by whatever the cause is that they want to give to that year. And in the past, our giving was extremely fractured. Like we would give for coffees, and we'd give coffees, and we'd give to Amnesty International with one of the books, and there was just all these different causes that we were doing. Mercy ships for the Growing a Medical Practice book, and it was just so hard to keep track of it all. So finding B1G1 was an absolute godsend for us to simplify things, and then know that it's calculated, and once a month we do the donation, and it's done. But everyone's been bought into it.
Yeah. Everyone has a say. And I think that's a lovely point that really illustrates that the power of purpose in a business. It can unite people, but also if you look at business metrics, retention of great people when they're fully connected into the purpose of the business,
definitely.
And they feel like they're actually making a difference by being in that business, and it means something.
And we say that in our hiring now. We're hiring at the moment, and we say, this is what we're about. And we most recently hired someone using that same ad, and they said in their interview, I wanted to be part of something where we were doing something good for the world, and I really feel like that's what YouLegal's doing. I was like, you're right.
You're hired.
Yes. No, it was a marketing role. She marketed her way in.
She did.
Now that you mention it.
Well, she's good at what she does, right?
Correct.
Oh, I love it. That's brilliant. It's funny working with so many different types of businesses. Like you just said, marketing might be more connected into purpose. But I love working with businesses who you don't expect to be very connected in. So there's an amazing business in the UK in London called Elliott Wood.
Yes.
And they are engineers, a group of building engineers. And they came into Bob's school, and there was a big table of all the senior leaders, and they're all think like engineers. I'm married to one, so I can say it.
Oh, lawyers love working with engineers.
Oh, I bet.
Love it.
Detail focused, process driven.
Do what they say they'll do.
Love it. Unlike marketers. I can say that because I'm a marketer. But when they came into the school, and I thought, oh wow, this is going to be interesting to where we're going to take this. And their challenge as a business was not necessarily with the client, but with the process that the client goes through. So a client would normally go to an architect.
That's the first stop.
First stop, architect would do these amazing, and we're talking about incredible, huge buildings in London. So not retail, commercial buildings. And the architect would design something fabulous and then take it to the building engineers, and they would say, well, you can't do that. Or you can't do this, you can't do this. Da, 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 da. So already...
Like it just doesn't work practically.
As engineers, that building, we can't do that.
Here's an example. My dad recently got an extension put on his house.
Right.
And the architects have those really trendy lights that hang.
Oh, yes.
And so they're in the kitchen. And then there was also a giant fan. And the electrician said it's not safe to put the fan near the hanging lights.
Of course. Well, that makes sense.
But that's an example.
But it would have looked good.
It would have looked amazing.
Yeah.
Until someone gets electrocuted.
That's right.
So
I think we listened to the engineers in that, or the electrician in that example.
Yes.
To say that's not a great way of doing it.
Yes.
But then it's the engineers who are having to have those hard conversations
like the
from day one with the client saying no, and then so it just hasn't been a great
after they've got this design that they're sold on 100%.
Love it. They've sold it into, because these
whoever needs to be
commercial businesses, it's been through leadership teams. And so what we decided was we needed to change the process, and we needed to get the engineers up front in the conversation with the architects, so they're able to have a really balanced conversation with the client at the beginning. And we started this process by determining their purpose. And they turned around and they just said it. We are engineering a better society.
I knew it.
I was like, I love that.
It's awesome.
It's all about engineering a better society. It's the way spaces are used. You know, it's about the community spaces. They work on skate parks and, you know, and how do you better use a community space and how do you make it more inclusive and how do you build with materials that are better for the world and all these.
So many layers.
So many layers. And so they knew it, but they just never articulated it. And he just came out with it and it was amazing. It was done. It was like, that is exactly your purpose.
Yes.
And once they were actually able to articulate the purpose, that's when everything fell into place. And we started talking to the architects, but around the purpose. So how do we together engineer a better society? What does better society mean for you, architects? Well, how do we work together on that? And just by having a purpose-driven conversation, it completely changed the conversation. It changed what they were talking about, and at the level before they were talking about, does this building work? Is that deep enough? Is there support?
All
you know,
the
back and
practical
forth
considerations.
And they just brought it right up to the highest layer and had a conversation at how do we engineer a better society? And they drew towards them all of the purpose-driven architects, and now that's who they work with. And it's just it's changed their business model. It's brought more business up front for them. Just a great example of maybe people who you wouldn't expect to be so purpose-driven and how that's influenced their business. And another part that I loved was when the CEO of the business called a town hall with all the engineers. I think there's about 70 engineers in the business. And he had to stand up and share the purpose and share the full purpose-driven approach that they were going to take to their business and stop the push sales approach that we talked about earlier and start to create the pull approach. And he said he was just so nervous. He was absolutely terrified of getting on stage because there's 70 engineers who, like we said, think like engineers. And he got a standing ovation.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, because finally they felt like they could even communicate what they do. And we created this purpose-driven video for them to be able to actually really communicate what they do. And it's just infiltrated the whole business and now out to all of their networks.
So awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
Love it.
Yes.
What's next on our list?
So another really interesting fact around purpose is, so I talked about the 300 years, the era, but when we look within this era that we've been in, so if we look back to kind of the 50s, 60s, how people used to go to market with take their products to market or take their services to market was how we called it was the how era. So there was only one television to show or one pair of shoes to show, and it was just all about the product, like, here it is, ta-da, this is amazing, and people would be like, oh, it's amazing, let's buy that.
Yes.
But then, you know, for about 20 years that works, and then it naturally evolves into new requirements. And
people get sick of it, or
they need more.
Yeah, okay.
You know, they've had that,
yes.
and production increase. So suddenly, instead of one pair of shoes, there's 25 different pairs of shoes.
Yes.
So it's not about the shoe anymore. It's like, oh, well, how are we going to get someone to choose our pair of shoes?
Okay.
So then we moved into the era, it was the what era. So it was like, what are the benefits of this product? What's the image that this product gives you? So if there's 25 pairs of shoes, which one really talks to you?
Yeah.
Which image do you want?
Like I just bought a whole lot of shoes that are made from plastic bottles.
Yes.
Because
I love those.
I don't want plastic bottles going in the ocean.
Love it. Love it. Brilliant. I'll use that as an example as we go through.
Yeah. And then they make handbags out of marine plastic. Yes. So they salvage it from the oceans, and the brand is called Rothy's for anyone who's interested.
Go and look at it. I love that. Yeah, and it's about image. So, you know, you like talking about it, you like the look of it, you like how it feels, it's good for you, it's good for your values. And that kind of moves into the why era. So you're now starting to talk about purpose. Before we move into the purpose era, I'll just give an example of the very first campaign that I can think of that was in the image era. It was actually the Marlboro Man.
Oh,
So if you can think back that far,
like
so
this,
yeah, you're going to smoke Marlboros.
Yes.
And they really had to work on selling cigarettes. So, but that was a really good example of image. You know, it's still the product, but it was all about, you know, if you want to be this man and feel manly, go and smoke Marlboros. So that's a great example. And then we moved into the Y era. So what you're talking about is purpose.
Okay.
So we've been in this kind of purpose era maybe for the last kind of 10 years. I do lots and lots of keynote speaking, and I often stand up on stage and put a picture of Simon Sinek up on my screen and ask the room, put up your hand if you know who this guy is. And 99% of people will put their hands up. And I think it's really fascinating because what that means is the purpose era has broken. It's in the mainstream. Everybody knows about Simon Sinek. Everyone knows about why. Everyone knows that you should have a purpose in your business. And it's still really important. But actually we've moved now that that's broken into the mainstream, we've actually moved into the next era, which is the Who era. And that's...
So Simon Sinek's old news. Is that what you're saying?
Important old news.
Well, I'm sure he'll have new ideas.
Yes. So
that's just the one he's best known for.
That's right. That's right. So he's known for It Starts With Why is the book.
Yes.
And that's what everybody would know him for.
Yes.
And if everyone knows it and everyone's read it, then
it's done.
It's done. It's a given that businesses need to have purpose and need to have a why. And a lot of businesses do have it, but they have it on one page of their website and tick, you know, I've put it up on my wall, but they're not living it. It's not brought down through all the elements of the business. So like you said, with your purpose, you now get your people involved. It's influencing decisions that the operations team are making. You know, it's influencing decisions around who you want to work with. It's probably influencing the products that you offer to attract and pull in those purpose-driven businesses. So it really needs to be integrated through the whole of the business. Now, that hasn't happened as a whole. We still see so many businesses, especially big corporates actually, keeping purpose as a tick box. Yeah. Essentially.
Corporate social responsibility.
Yeah. And that's a department that sits over there, but it's not integrated through everything within the business and every stream. So your products, your channel and your sales. Yeah. So it is in the mainstream, but it could be done better, definitely. And now we've moved into the Who era. And what the Who era is, it's all about the emotional connection that you have with your Who. And when I talk about your Who, sometimes it's your direct client. Elliott Wood, for example. So we spoke about Elliott Wood. Their Who wasn't necessarily the customer. It actually, the person that they needed to influence was the architects. So their Who is their architects, and they needed to understand what's the emotional journey the architects are on so that they can say, excuse me, architects, we understand this is your journey and this is how we can help fix these problems for you. So bring us into the conversation and it's going to make your lives better.
Yes. And clients.
And of course,
like
and
the
clients.
whole process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we're in this era of really needing to emotionally connect with our Who. And normally it will be your client, but it could be someone else as well. And the way you emotionally connect is by being purpose-driven and by being able to really communicate that and show how it's built through your whole
and being
business.
really authentic about it.
Totally. Yes. And then making sure that you don't have things in your business that contradict it. So that you are having, you know, they look at you and they know that that you are who you are and what you say you are. But you've understood their emotional journey and you're able to connect in at that point. Yeah.
Just trying to think of an example of somebody who's not authentic about saying what their purpose is, but I can't think of one off the top of my head.
It's not necessarily that they're... I can think of lots of examples. Like if you go back to you're getting offers for websites, right? It's not that they're not authentic about their purpose. They just have no purpose or
they're just like trying to...
It's just products and benefits. And actually, so what I would say is if everyone listening, go to your own website and look at your website. And if you are leading with products and benefits, then you're still connecting with your audience in a way that we used to connect in the kind of 60s and 70s.
When TV first started, kind of ads started being developed.
Exactly. And we call that kind of B2C marketing. So business to consumer. And if you look at most corporates, like if I pulled up a corporate website, most of them are still leading with their products and benefits. Like 95% are still leading with products and benefits. So still marketing back in the kind of 70s and 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s era. Whereas what we call purpose-driven and brand-led businesses is it's business to people. It's people to people. We're just people who are working with people, and we need to connect emotionally because we are people.
And especially with what's happened this year.
Oh, yes.
Connection's even more important.
It's everything. It's absolutely everything. And I think that it is going to push us even faster into this era of true connection, understanding the emotional journey, being really authentic, supporting other businesses, supporting small businesses, like the trends that we're seeing now as a result of what's happened is it's all returning back to local, and supply chains were so desperately challenged through the period that people are now starting to think, oh, right, okay, so let's not rely on this supply chain over there, and creating new supply chains locally. And people are starting to support small businesses more.
And farmers markets. And
yes. And products that are better for your health. So health is another trend that's come in that's been really important.
I know the number of gym franchise documents I've been reviewing is out of this world.
Interesting. Wow, that is really interesting. Yeah, and that's just another trend that's sort of starting to happen, and all of these trends are pushing us into this purpose-driven era. Yeah,
totally. Yes.
It's
exciting.
It is exciting. I mean, it's been a whirlwind and unsettling and difficult for so many different people and businesses and really challenging times. But I think as a result, if we can adapt to the new era and lead our businesses with purpose and pulling that audience in towards us, then I think that there's a much bigger reward at the end of it.
Many different layers of that too.
Absolutely.
Reward.
Yeah.
Rory, do we have any questions that have been popping up on Facebook or Zoom? You are welcome to ask questions. All right, Rory will check.
So another term that we're starting to talk about is purpose being the new trading economy.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah, I know. It's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
But going into this next 300 years of purpose, it's how have we traded in the commercial era and how could we be trading differently going forward?
Yes.
So we've just built a platform called Bob Earth. And it's a place for purpose-driven businesses to connect, to learn, and to trade together. And at the moment, we've been working on it for 4 years, but we've just launched it in March when the pandemic hit. Yeah, we had to pull it forward a few months, so there was some fast development work happening. But we launched it in March, and we now have our whole community on Bob Earth, and other businesses can come and take a city on Bob Earth. So the United Nations are one of our partners and endorsing the platform because they can see how purpose-driven we are and we align on so many areas. But trade is one part of this platform. And Lindsay Boyd, our founder, it's her vision that has been brought to life. And she's been exploring how purpose is the new trading economy. And how do we trade? It doesn't have to necessarily be the old 20th century way of trading with dollars for service, but how do we trade service for service or product for product or product for service? And how do you might need my services, but I need Rory's services. How do we create an ecosystem where we can be trading in a different way? Yeah, so that's coming soon. So we're working on that at the moment, but it is yeah, it's fascinating how differently we could be doing things than just necessarily doing everything as we have in the 20th century.
Yeah, extremely cool, and it will be really interesting to see how it develops as well.
Yeah.
The existing community jumping on there and being the guinea pigs.
Yeah, so we've got all of our community on there at the moment, and so they've connected, and it's been amazing to connect. We've worked with so many businesses in Australia, and our business partners have worked with all the businesses in London, and they're also working with businesses in America, and we're working with businesses in Asia. So it's been amazing to actually be able to connect businesses globally who are in the same industry. And this is our point earlier when we talked about competition versus collaboration. And how do we actually bring these businesses together to collaborate across the seas and influence the industries that they're working in to do things in a much better way and to do things differently? And for the first time, I've never seen this happen before, but about a month ago, we launched a campaign called Unite on Purpose.
Yes.
And it's where we campaigned with over 150 businesses campaigned together globally around it is time to unite, like on purpose. You know, we're doing this on purpose, but it's also time to unite on purpose, our purposes together. And that was just fascinating to watch that happen. And you can, as a business, you can go out and campaign on your own and you would get X amount of reach and influence, but having 150 businesses campaign together globally was such a massive impact that we sent Twitter, we got Twitter records. We were trending on Twitter within, I think, 20 minutes of launching the campaign. Yeah, it was amazing. And it meant that, you know, a business that might be a smaller business who would never get that sort of reach was able to get the reach because we did it together and it was just collaborating together. And it's that whole Unite on Purpose message.
And it worked.
And it worked. Thank gosh.
Yay. Yes, thank gosh. Rory, any questions? No. Okay. All right. Thanks for checking. Well, are we going to talk any more about personal brand?
We sure can. I can talk all day on personal brand.
I know you can. I do want to be mindful of people's time. I think we've got about 15 minutes to go.
Okay.
That's a lot of time to talk about personal brand. We won't necessarily talk about personal brand the whole time. Just wondering, I guess, you know, you said with the Elliott Wood people, they sat down and they knew their business purpose, like just quite, it seemed like it just came to them. You must have asked them the right questions or something to pull it out of them. Short of having you pull it out of people, can people figure it out on their own, or is there a process that people should be going through? Or
we run a process that we work with people on to help them determine the business purpose and then their personal purpose.
Express it. I guess that's the hardest bit, maybe finding the words.
I think what the challenge I find is that people want to go straight to the words before they've found what it is. So I help them just divorce that. Don't worry about how you express it and make it sound cool, like engineering a better society. I mean, they did actually just land the words. Yeah. Don't worry about how it's expressed. There are people out there called copywriters who can take your message and they can, as we would say, zhuzh it.
Yes.
And we'll do a bit of zhuzhing and make it, you know, a beautifully communicated message. So don't worry at all about making it sound like any, you know, giving nature back the upper hand or any of those types of ones. First of all, just land the area that you feel really passionate about.
The vibe?
The vibe. It could be the vibe, but it's more than passion. There's things you're passionate about and there's things that you're really driven to do. And generally it's a combination of both. When you're driven by purpose, you know, there's always obstacles, but you will find a way to get around them, get over them. So it's not just a passion, something that you like doing. It's, you ask yourself the question, what do you want to be known for? What do you want to be known for in the world? So if somebody said to you, you know, what's Sarah known for? What is it that you would want them to say? What would you want them to think?
You know, I hate these things.
I know. I
hate these questions. I'm like really resistant to it, which is why I need to. In fact, I did say that to my new team member. I was just like, here's generally what I mean, but you work out how to do the words. She's like, fuck. I was like, I don't do that bit.
At least you know what you do. You know your strengths. It's funny. I do,
especially when it comes to myself.
Of course, and that is so common.
Okay.
It is so common, and I feel the same. I happily will sit there and work on everyone else's purposes, and then people will say, Sarah, what's yours? I'm like, oh, don't talk about me.
Let's talk about you.
Let's talk about you. Let's go back to you.
But then your 8-year-old daughter had a beautiful expression of what she wanted to be known for.
Oh,
and she just knew it off the top of her head.
So this is what's really fascinating about eras. And, we do all this research and look at trends, and that's, looking at the gaps. We're trying to find the gaps that we are going to build brands into. And one of the products that we're creating at Bob is a board game for families around purpose. And it's a board game to play with your kids. And it's totally purpose-driven board game. And it's going to be sold through major stores through the UK. And we were putting together the pilot of the game. So we needed to show one of the big stores an example. And so Lindsay reached out to us and said, could you just ask your kids, like, what is it that they want to be known for in the world? So don't prep them, just film them, ask them, and
send me the video.
And I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be interesting. And I've got twins. I've got 8-year-old boy and girl twins, totally different children, like, chalk and cheese. And I got my camera out and said to my daughter, what do you want to be known for? And she said, I'd like to be known for turning meanness into kindness.
So beautiful.
Born purpose-driven.
Yeah.
Knowing that that's what she wants to be. And my son was something completely different. He wanted to build robots to save the world. Yeah.
That's kind of cool, though.
It's kind of cool. And he is like engineering brain, and will probably build a robot that saves the world. But that's what I found fascinating by working with so many different businesses and business owners and business leaders is of my era and my generation, there was never a conversation about purpose. And if you'd asked me when I was 8, I probably would have been looking at the sky and, twirling my hair around. I had no idea what I wanted to be known for. But what I found by working with, when younger generation come in and work with us, they're on it. They know, they're born with it. They're driven by it. So I feel like that's one of the changes that's happening with this next generation who are coming up. It's already a given. Purpose is a given. And these conversations that we're having, we won't be needing to have in 20, 30 years' time, because it will just already be there. Purpose will already be part of everything that we do.
Part of the DNA.
Part of the DNA. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, it is so cool. It really is. And the difference that being connected to your personal brand can make is, for me, it's just astounding to watch. I remember you coming into the Bob School when we did personal brand and sat at the back of the room with your arms crossed, and you were like, no,
I don't do this.
I don't do this. No. And actually, it was the same session that you were in. There was a older gentleman, probably 65 years old, same thing, sitting on the side like, I'll
probably
do this
next to me
because you told me I should be here, but I'm not going to be. He actually said to me, I'm not going to be contributing today.
Really? At least I didn't say that.
You were close enough.
My body language did.
And I was like, sure, you just come in the room, it'll be fun. No worries, I won't ask you anything. And I sat with him at lunchtime, actually, and really helped pull out his personal brand. And he connected to it, and he was in tears. And he said, and he hugged me. Like, this man had not hugged me. I'm quite a hugger. He'd not hugged me the whole course, and he just gave me the most heartfelt hug, because he said, I can't believe I'm 65 and I didn't know. And now he's gone and changed
everything,
his whole life, just by being connected into his personal purpose. Amazing.
Powerful.
Yeah, really powerful. So I would recommend for people at home just to think about, what do you want to be known for? What impact do you want to have in the world? And it doesn't have to be in the world. It doesn't have to be, I want to, save anything. It could be within your family. What do you want to be known for in your family? What do you want to be known for from your kids, your husband, your wife, your friends?
Mm.
What do you want to be known for in your community? You know, and then you can start building it out a little bit bigger.
Mm.
And I find that people naturally connect into a certain level.
Yes.
So I would look at what do you want to be known for in the family, in the community,
Yep.
in business, in the industry that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can just keep going out.
The layers.
And the layers. And what I'll find is, so you might connect in with, oh, it's the industry. I want to change the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Or I want to have an impact in the industry. I want things to be done differently.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you can connect in at that level, then that's the level you'll start to make change. But then when you revisit your purpose, often you'll then connect in at a slightly higher level.
Layer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And everyone's at a different place, and there's no right and wrong. It's just what impact do you want to have?
Well, my 8-year-old has joined student politics this year on the platform of no rubbish.
Oh, brilliant.
He's become a waste warrior.
Oh, my daughter's a waste warrior.
Oh, my goodness.
She made the costumes. They wear costumes.
They wear costumes. Okay,
Hilarious.
Alex hasn't done
They're
that
all
yet.
different colours of the waste bins.
Wow.
Yeah, she's the purple one.
That's the next level.
You take that home.
I
That can be
know.
your learning from today.
Well, SRC, you know, they do deal with the big issues like who's putting sand in the toilets. But maybe the next question is, where do we get our costumes from?
Love it. Oh, that's so good.
So, yeah, he seems to know.
Yeah. And litter picking for us was a detention.
Yes.
And it's
Punishment.
funny, I had this conversation with my daughter and I was saying, she said, Mum, did you ever have detention? I was like, well, I had a few in my time. Let's not go into that.
That's a whole different podcast.
And she said, what did you get? What did you have to do? And I said, well, I had to go and pick up litter. And she's like, but that's so fun. I was like, wow, this just shows how times have changed.
Oh my goodness. That is hilarious. That is fun.
Yeah. Well, because I've made them pick up like it's a fun thing. You can get me 10 pieces. Go. So we've made it into a game. Yeah.
Oh.
She's like, oh, great. I have to get detention.
Yeah, well, detention's probably changed now. So
I don't even know.
Litter picking up is fun.
That's right. Yeah.
What else do we need to say to wrap up?
I think key takeaways is just sit with yourself, connect in with what you want to be known for. What do you want your business to be known for? What's it already known for? You know, everyone has a purpose. It's just that sometimes we're not connected into a way of expressing it. So what do you already do? What gives you joy? What lights you up? What are you really proud of in your business or in yourself and what you're doing? And how do you do more of that? You know, how can you have more impact? And just sit and think about, what are the different things I could be doing? How can I impact more? And, you know, and write it down and think about what's going to make you happy. Because ultimately what I see is when people are connected to their purpose, then that's what's really fulfilling, because they're actually able to deliver on it.
And writing it down actually does something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Not just thinking about it.
Yeah. Write it down. Honestly, it makes such a difference. Words will come out, the way you language it will come out, going back and looking over it. It's funny, and I shouldn't admit this, but in workshops, I get people to write it down, and I come around and I stand with them all, and they're like, I just don't know what it is. And I'm like, it's right there. You've written the words. And it's already within you. It's never me giving you your purpose. I'm just helping pull it out. So write it down, look at the words, and it will be on that piece of paper.
Love it. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming in today.
So fun.
You're the best.
Oh, amazing. Thanks, Sarah.